Hi guys! I wanted to do a walkthrough and review of the Moleskine Expanded Classic notebook, which I think is a really nice option if, like myself, you enjoy a chunkier notebook. So the Moleskine Expanded is basically just a thicker version of the standard Moleskine large notebooks, which are A5 slim size. And it comes in a few different options. So it comes in black, which has a hardbound and a softbound version, and I've got the softbound version. And the black also comes in 4 different layout options: lined, blank, gridded, and dot grid, and I've got the dot grid. And then it also comes in blue and red, but unfortunately the blue and red only come in lined and blank, so that's a pity if you like dot grid like me. In terms of size, like I said, it's an A5 slim, so if you compare it to a Leuchtturm, which is a true A5, you can see that it's the same height, but it's thinner. These are my tabs that I added in, so if you just ignore those, it's like, yeah, like that. And this is it in comparison with the Hobonichi cousin, which is also a true A5. I've got a vinyl cover on it, so that makes it look a bit taller, but it's actually the same height, and then again you can see there's quite a difference in width. And then this is it in comparison with a B6 Stalogy, so you can see it's exactly the same width as a B6 but taller, if that helps. And then finally this is it in comparison with the Hobonichi Weeks, which is kind of like a B6 slim, so you can see it's shorter and then also narrower. So A5 slim size. I'll talk later about what kind of covers will fit this, because it doesn't fit A5 covers perfectly. So in terms of the design, you can see it's this very nice, slightly textured faux leather. It's the same cover as on all of the other Moleskine soft covers, if you're familiar with those. So this is what it looks on the back. Very understated, no branding except for this Moleskine logo, which is blind embossed on the back. Really, really nice look. I love the look of the Moleskines. Nothing on the side. And then it's got this elastic, which is not too tight and not too loose. I would say that it's just a perfect fit, and it leaves room to grow if you want to put in a lot of stickers and ephemera and watercolor and things like that. So this is what it looks like on the side. Rounded corners. And if we have a look on the inside, this is what it looks like when you open it up. The cover is quite thin but sturdy. So I've been using this most days for the past 5 months or so, and admittedly I haven't been taking it outside, but I have been, carrying it around inside the flat, moving it from room to room, taking it in and out of covers, and it's held up really well. It has this really nice, flexible, satisfying feel. So when you open it up, this is the end page, which is made out of a bit of a thicker cardstock, and it has the Moleskine logo here, and then it has this in case of lost page, which I've left blank because I'm not taking it anywhere, and that's just a sticker that I added. And then it goes straight into the dot grid. So let me just show you a blank page here. See if that will focus. Yeah, so that's the dot grid. What I really like about Moleskine is that it has a very pleasant, mild gray print. So it's not like too dramatic of a black. It's not really dark. It's very elegant is how it seems to me. And the paper is ivory, off-white. So if you compare it to the Weeks paper, I would say it's closer to white than the Weeks paper, if you can see the difference between those, but it's not white. So this is a Stalogy, which is really white, and hopefully you can see the difference there between the 3 of them. So it's just really off-white ivory, I guess. Not at all gray. It kind of leans more towards the sort of, I guess, yellowish side of the off-white, which I think is really nice. And it's the same as other Moleskine paper, if you're familiar with that. So I'll talk about paper quality in a minute. But it has 400 pages. They're not numbered, which is one thing I wish that they would have done. because if you want to use it for bullet journaling or really anything where you would like to keep track of pages, that would be a nice option. So you have to number them yourselves, which I haven't. And then it goes all the way until the back where you have another end page, and then you have the traditional Moleskine pocket, which is very sturdy. It has this nice reinforcing here, and I keep some blotting paper and some stickers in here, which I use to make the tabs. So yeah, that's what it looks like on the outside, and on the inside you've just got this beautiful dot grid that has a little bit of a border. So the dots stop like kind of right here, and then on the top you have a little bit of a, I guess, of a gap, but not more than what you would get between lines. So it doesn't have like a box or anything like, for example, the Stalogy, which has the grid inside a box, if you see what I mean. It's just like dot grids and then it stops. So I think it's a really nice layout. Now, in terms of the paper quality, this is probably what a lot of you are wondering, like, what about the paper quality? Because Moleskine, I think, has gained quite a bad reputation for terrible paper quality. So the paper is 70 GSM, so it's on the thinner side, but it has a really nice feel to it. I like the feel of Moleskine paper. It's smooth and it feels delicate, but not as thin as, like, say, Hobonichi Tomoe River paper, for example. But it's on the thinner side for one of these standard notebooks, which I think normally tend to be more like 80 GSM. So when I first got this, I did a pen test with various different fountain pens, because that's all I use. And the results were rather disappointing. So you can see up here, I wasn't really surprised about this, but basically everything bled through or had very heavy ghosting except for this is an Arial Kulak, which is basically a Parker 51 fine. And I'm not sure if it was the pen and ink combination or what it was, because I have other fines and extra fines that did bleed through. So I was really disappointed, and I thought, well, I'm not going to be able to use this to write on both sides with fountain pen. And when I did decide to start using it, I used it, I've been using this for a notebook for a language class that I've been taking, Classically Ethiopic, which I've been doing during lockdown. And I thought that this would be perfect for it. But I didn't want to write on both sides of the page, because I thought, like, well, there's going to be too much bleed through. I won't be able to see the other side. So I started writing just on the right side of the page. Now, I should also mention that there's no index here. So if you want to use this as a bullet journal, or you want to be able to keep track of things, you really should just like leave a couple of pages blank at the beginning. I didn't do that because I wasn't quite sure when I started using this exactly how it was going to look. I was just planning to use it for notes. And what happened in the end is that I ended up marking off each lesson. So I've been doing this course for, like, this is week 15 that just happened. And so I've marked off every lesson, like the notes from every session, with a tab. And I didn't keep an index. I could put one in the end because, I mean, really, that, you know, would also make sense as a place for an index to go. And then number the pages, and I just haven't done that because I haven't actually needed to as of yet, but it's always an option. So it's kind of a drawback to this, is that it doesn't have that built-in like you would get in some other notebooks. Like, for example, the Leuchtturm has a built-in index, which is really nice, and also numbered pages, which I think is a huge plus. But unfortunately, Leuchtturm doesn't make anything as chunky as this. So if you look at these in comparison, this one is so much chunkier, and I just find it really satisfying in the hand, but also, depending on what I want to use it for, I think it could be nice to have those extra pages. So I think it's something like 150 extra pages beyond what you would get in the standard Moleskine or in, say, a Leuchtturm. And there aren't very many companies that make a notebook as chunky as this. Hipponoto is one of the other few that I know of, but depending on where you live, if you, like me, if you live in Europe, the shipping can be quite expensive and also takes a long time, and Moleskine is just really available, and it's, you know, pretty good value, like especially by Planoratic standards. So I just started off by making a page per session as a kind of like session intro page, and then putting the tab on that. And then what I was doing was just writing on one side of the page because, like I mentioned, I thought like, well, this is terrible. I'm not going to be able to write on the other side. And then what I noticed was that it was actually only really bad in terms of bleed through when I just filled the pen. And after I'd been using it for like a day or so, it was okay, and there was still ghosting, definitely. So you can see like there's no page without ghosting, but ghosting doesn't bother me. I'm used to ghosting from Hobonichis anyway, and they have no bleed through. So you can see here, this is already pretty good. There's really no bleed through on this page. It's just ghosting, which is fine with me. And I was making the class notes on the right side of the page, and then it started to bother me about how every left side was blank. And so I started to write a few things on the left side of the pages, like just exercises and vocab notes and things that I wasn't writing down during the class, but like between sessions I would write some things down. And I discovered that actually in most cases it was completely fine. And even here, where there's quite a bit of bleed through, I can still read on this side of the page, and then if you flip over to the other side of the page, it isn't a problem. So then I thought, you know what, maybe I can actually write on both sides of the page. So what I started doing was using the left side of the page just to do exercises from the class. And I've got about, let's say, up to here. So I've written, look, I've written up to here. So this is like a good chunk of writing. Probably like at least, what, I don't know, 75 pages or something on both sides of the page, and it's absolutely fine. So I have been using an extra fine Kaweco Sport, which may be helping a bit, but for quite a bit of time I was using a medium. I also have a Kaweco Sport medium, and I was kind of alternating back and forth freely, which is why they're different ink colors. And that was fine as well. So now I'm using it with a cover, and so that's why I'm always using the same pen. But I also used a Kara's Customs medium for a while, and that was okay too. So I kind of think that the ghosting and the bleed through is not actually as much of an impediment to using the notebook as I felt. So I just thought I should mention that in case you've been a bit anxious about using a Moleskine because of the paper quality. It's really fine. This is all fountain pen, and you can see that it's totally legible. So sometimes there's been an ink splodge, which was my fault. It was just like, you know, when the pen was quite full, or sometimes just like here something went wrong. But like, okay, so on the other side, obviously there's terrible bleed through, and I just ignored that little bit, and the rest of it's fine. It hasn't stopped me at all. So it's true that this is just a practice notebook. I'm not using this for like my most precious plans or my memoirs or anything that I want to, you know, look amazing and pristine for future generations. So it really doesn't bother me if there is ghosting and some bleed through, as long as it's functional. So I think if you want to use this for anything where you're not that bothered about bleed through and like, I mean, you're not that bothered about ghosting and sometimes a bit of bleed through, then it's really fine. And this is just so satisfying to me that the bit of bleed through and the ghosting kind of are outweighed by just the enjoyment of having this nice chunky notebook. And it has a really satisfying feel as well. If you can hear that, it just is all like squishy and nice. And in terms of the spine, it lays completely flat. So I didn't even have to do anything to get it to do that. I've been using it for a few months now, but it was like this from the start. So I didn't have to train it at all. Lies really flat, and the spine is great quality. So it's, let's see if you can see, there are also two bookmarks, by the way. There's one black one and one gray one. And they kind of obscure the spine a little bit, but let me see if I can show it to you. So there's a bit of a gap here. Don't know if this will focus. There. So you can see that this is empty, like this is some empty space where I can stick my finger in, and there's like kind of paper binding, and then there's the like actual cover, and there's some room sort of between them where the bookmarks are attached. So it opens all the way, and then it kind of opens like that. So sewn binding, like really good. I can't fault it on that. And yeah, anywhere in the book. So I think that this is quite a nice option if you don't mind a lot of ghosting and some bleed through depending on what pen you're using, but it absolutely is fine with fountain pens. So that is like an unexpected bonus that I wasn't thinking I would be able to do, is write on both sides with fountain pens. So in terms of covers, this is one of the most difficult things because of the A5 slim size. So A5 covers will fit, but there will be room on the side. So like, for example, if I show it to you with a Hobonichi cover, some people don't mind this and others do. I find it infuriating. I do not like it when there's extra room, so this doesn't work for me. So this is what it looks like, and I hate that. So it fits absolutely fine. If you like push it back a little bit, it would be like that, where you'd have the overhang here. That's not too bad, but it still kind of bugs me. You could also put both covers in, so it would look like this. So if you jiggle it around a little bit, you can get it to kind of look like that, where there's, yeah, it's not so bad, but I still don't feel like this is optimos. It kind of bugs me. And this is a choose to do cover, which is a great option if you are looking for nice, good quality faux leather planner covers. It has strings, which I've taken out, so you could put this on strings and then if you ordered it, and then it would look like that, which I think isn't too bad. There's not too much overhang. It's kind of borderline for me. It would still bug me a little bit. And then you can also use it like a folio, so you can just like stick this into the pocket here. And this is quite structured, so you can kind of decide where you want it to sit. And then if you closed it like that, you'd have a little bit of space here and a little bit of space here, and it doesn't look too bad, but it still kind of bugs me because I know there's a gap. So what works the best is A5 slim sizes like Webster's Pages. So the Webster's Pages Traveler's Notebook is perfect size for this. And you can use the pocket here to fit it in like this. It's a little bit tight, but it does fit. And it's the perfect size, but you have to like kind of push it all the way to the end, or else you'll get some what's the opposite of overhang? Like the planner will stick out. You can also put it on the strings, which for some reason I don't like doing with chunky notebooks. It kind of bugs me. I don't like the way it looks, but it looks perfect. So that fits it really, really well with absolutely like kind of seamless, just a little bit, the cover sticks out just a little bit beyond the planner. So I would say that this size works the best. And this is the only A5-ish size that the Webster's Pages Traveler's Notebooks come in, and then you have a pen loop and it looks really nice and it fits very satisfyingly. However, I would say that this notebook also works really well on its own. So one of the nice things about it is that it doesn't need a cover. And I have been using this most of the time without a cover at all, and it's held up really well, and you can't even see any markings on it. So it doesn't scratch easily or anything like that, at least not in my experience. The only problem with it is that it doesn't have a pen loop, and this is easily solved because you can either buy a Leuchtturm pen loop to attach to it, or another adhesive pen loop, or you can string this around. I'm never good at doing it, but you can like kind of strap it like this, and then you can put a pen on the side here, which I have never really got into, even though I think it's a great idea. I've kind of never really somehow bonded with that way of doing it. And the pen loops that you can adhere, I like, but I didn't want to use one on this because the soft cover is quite thin, and so I felt like if I put a pen loop on here, I was kind of worried about it being like a little bit floppy. Although I think on this side it's not such a problem because you've got the pocket, and I've actually got some blotter paper in the pocket, so that stiffens it a little bit. But I just decided I like the way it looks like this, and so I've been using this actually with a Mumsy and Bub cover recently, which is again an A5 size, and it has this really thick spine. So for me, it's not ideal just having this inside this because there would be too much overhang. But I'm taking 2 language courses, different languages, Classical Ethiopic and Polish. And this is my Polish notebook, which is also Moleskine. It's a hardback standard size, but they fit perfectly together. And because the Mumsy and Bub is so chunky. It has this really big reinforced spine. Together I feel like they look perfect, and I like having them together because then I have one pen for the two classes and I can just pick up this traveler's notebook and know that all of my language stuff is in here, and so if I want to practice either one, I'm covered. And I think that because they're both the same width, it looks pleasing to me and it doesn't bother me, because I'm like kind of really strict about liking to have different inserts be the same width and not having one, like, you know, stick out further than the other. And these are both Moleskine, so it's perfect, and it looks really good with the spine. And this is a really chunky spine, but this gives you an idea of how much it fits. So normally, like I said, I don't really like having traveler's notebooks with chunky notebooks, but normally I will just keep this in here for storage when I'm not using it, and then I take it out to write in it. And I can just easily take it out because it's on the strings. So that's what I've been doing. I'll leave Mumsy and Bub link down below because they're another fantastic vegan leather traveler's notebook company, really good quality. And so that's how I've been using it. So I would say that if you are happy to put a pen loop on, which I think would be okay if you put it on this side, and especially if you put something like a piece of cardstock in the pocket, then you'd be fine with it not being like kind of too floppy and the pen not having too much weight. Or if you wanted to put it in a cover, I would go with something like the A5 slim size, which you can find in a variety of different options. Or if you're not as picky as me about them fitting exactly, then you can use A5 covers, and then you can use, you know, whatever you want. So yeah, this is the Moleskine Expanded. I hope that you enjoyed this and found it helpful, and I would say that this is a really good option if you're looking for a nice, satisfying, chunky notebook with 400 pages and dot grid that you actually can use with fountain pens, depending on how strict you are about ghosting and bleed through. So I hope you enjoyed this. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back again soon with more Hobonichi videos. Bye!